in a previous church. Walter was a gentleman in our choir. He was 80 years old. He won the second place medal in the national squash finals. An ambitious sport with quick running, quick reflexes, played with rackets and a rubber ball in a four-walled court. Walter enjoyed his success at the national finals, but then he would add with a grin, that there were only 4 contestants in his age group. He would say, running is the only sport I know of where the athletes look forward to getting older. Certain birthdays put you in the next bracket. And if you hang around long enough, there's no one else around you, and you become number 1. The following year, Walter became number 1. Thank you for completing that sentence. That was a bait, and you bet. He had run a good race, he said, as he brought the trophy home to the Federated Church in Orleans, where I was pastoring at the time. When I refer to life as a race, I'm not thinking of what you call the rat race, when life seems to be too fast, more than you can keep up with. Rather than I'm thinking of Paul in the book of Hebrews, who, when he speaks of life as a race, is talking about running with Jesus, a course of life that is responsive and responsible to God, a life that looks in the right direction for direction. We often think of racing as competitive with others, but it doesn't have to be that way. Some years ago, one of my friends crossed the finish line in the Boston Marathon. No, he wasn't number 1, he was 465. His name wasn't in the newspaper the next day. He said, I didn't get lost. When I asked him, how did you do? I didn't get lost, I stayed the course, and I finished, and I had a great time. I think that this is the kind of race that Paul is talking about. In fact, I know it is, when he speaks of looking to Jesus as the one out ahead of us, who shows us the course we should be running in our lives. We're all participants in the race at its best, following a course laid out by the one who knows the heart of God. Who else would you choose to follow? Rather than competing in this race, we often help each other along. The race is non-competitive. Now, there's a new thing for a race, isn't it? A race that's non-competitive. Trying to outdo others is not part of it. Rather than trying to outrace someone else, it has more to do with not getting lost. That is, not losing sight of Christ in our lives, who knows the heart of God. Staying the course and finishing and having a great time being on God's team together. Years ago, there was a popular book of prayers by Michael Koist that was titled, Are You Running With Me, Jesus? And I always used to turn the words around and say, Am I running with you, Jesus? And challenged members of the congregation to ask the same thing. When I stop running with Jesus and wander from pursuing the course of life that Jesus lays out, then I'm the one with the problem, not him. I've moved away, but he hasn't. I never find Jesus or the Lord absent when I am in a mood for prayer, and I truly ask and seek and knock. And I remember he said, if you ask, it shall be given. If you seek, you'll find. If you knock on the door, it will be open to you. But you have to really do that, and you really have to mean that in your heart of hearts. You know, I'm not surprised that Paul chose to speak of running with perseverance, a race laid out for us by Jesus. There are a lot of analogies between actual running and what Paul is talking about. I began running lots of years ago. Not going to tell you how many. You know, some of you. Well, my wife, Pat, would tell you that I first started to impress my doctor at the annual physical. So when he put the blood pressure cuff around my arm and listened to my heart and put me on the scales, then I would impress him. Well, but then, that's the way it was then, but I remember well that going from non-running to running was an awful lot like work at the beginning, so I needed a good reason to begin, not just to impress the doctor. Not unlike one's decision to begin a walk or a run in life without following someone that you have great faith in. If your motivation is weak, then as soon as the day of the doctor's exam is over, you stop doing what you were doing before that. You have to have a motivation that's sustaining, self-sustaining. Running with Jesus is often hard work, too, and most people need a reason to take it seriously and to begin in earnest. For what are some of the reasons why Christ is an authority that you listen to in your life? Have you ever stopped to try to articulate those or write them down? What are some of the reasons, the motivations? Are they strong motivations or are they weak ones that are easily compromised as soon as the crisis goes by? When I first graduated from non-running to running, I required the 2 Ds, of discipline and decision. Decision comes first. I'm going to do it. And then when I get stuff doing it, I'm going to be disciplined about doing it. I didn't particularly enjoy getting sweaty and all out of breath, but I trusted that the benefits would come, and they did. D for discipline, one of the 2 Ds, is a close cousin to the word discipleship, which begins when you say yes to Jesus' invitation to have a relationship, to truly have faith in his laying out the course, knowing the heart of God. I have enjoyed non-competitive running. I even take off my watch because I don't want to compete with it either. I see that's Wilson nodding in his head. Do you take your watch off too? All right. Makes sense. Something I notice when I have gone for a run is what I have heard joggers call hitting the wall. After the warm-up walk, getting ready to jog and break into a run, hitting the wall happens to me in the first half mile or so. In my mind, it goes something like this: it's too hot and humid tonight. I don't think I have the energy to do this. It's so heavy. And I think I'll shortcut down this side street and get back to the car. I can do better tomorrow. That's the time when Paul's words come to my mind: run with perseverance the race. Physically speaking, I continue running because I know about the experience of what some call a second wind. A second wind. It really happens. I slow my pace a little, breathe deeply, listening to the music on my headphones for entertainment and distraction from the pain, and things even out. Before I know it, I feel good again. And the energy is there. I'm committed to continue running and completing the race. Running with Jesus requires what Paul emphasizes when he says, run with perseverance, the race. When you're running with Jesus, there are times when the going is tough. It's difficult to do where he leads, and to go where he leads, and to do what he does, and you are tempted to take the shortcuts and make compromises about what you know is right, rather than continue the race. When being faithful to the ways of Christ makes it tough for you to continue, then following Christ means a lot of work. And sometimes a loss of popularity even. That's one of the times when it becomes tough to follow. I like the old adage about when the going gets tough, the tough get going. All of us have heard that. But it's true. When running with Jesus is difficult for you, find a quiet place and pray for God's Spirit to breathe into you a second wind. And above all things, keep running, trusting in the second wind, the gift. the benefits will come. Running with perseverance means persisting in spite of hitting the wall, meeting with resistance or obstacles, hindrances, disappointments, or occasional setbacks, or the frustrating behavior of other people around you. In my years of running, I've come to see the beauty of many things I once overlooked. That's one of the great things that also happens. I see up close the gradual, beautiful changes of the seasons, Long Island Sound, many animals along the way. Occasionally, even the mayor is sometimes out running. Pastor Gerhard Frost once wrote, "The small moment is the carrier of God's most enduring gifts." There are many of those small but wonderful moments for anyone who's out running. Such is also true when we run our lives with Jesus. If you allow Jesus to coach your day-to-day living, your dreams, your choices, and your decisions and discipline, He will show you so much of what many of us tend to overlook or neglect in the quality of relationships such as friendships, marriage, parenting, colleagues in the business world, and how to restore and heal relationships when they are broken or when they're breaking. He will show you His concern for those whose lives are treated as marginal in our society. We'll ask you to find ways to bring justice and fairness to them. The road gets bumpy sometimes. That's hard work. It's not always the work that leads to popularity. When running, I meet with a few dangers along the way. One is the frequent car and driver on a side street at a stop sign. Though the law says pedestrians have the right of way, I always go around the back side of that vehicle because I know sometimes people can make a mistake and push on the wrong pedal to the metal. In running with Jesus, when you learn that people aren't perfect, sometimes they make mistakes, sometimes they deliberately make mistakes, choose to go through a wrong stop sign, doing things that are wrong. Be wise. But as a runner with Jesus, don't give up on anyone. But search for ways to be friendly, kind, and caring for them all. Running the race of life with Jesus will lead you to notice people, their concerns, their idiosyncrasies, and needs that are often overlooked by those who are caught up running only in self-serving directions. While running, I've made many acquaintances. A woman who lives alone with 23 cats. I met a fellow whose motorized wheelchair often who from his motorized wheelchair slaps me 5 when I run by. A West Haven fireman who shouts hello from his porch. And I've seen people arguing. And I've seen couples on romantic strolls along the water's edge. I've seen an emergency vehicle rescue by the EMTs. I once stood next to a family outside their burning home, right there in West Haven. All of these things and many more during evening runs. Life is like that, filled with people. When you're running with Jesus, be prepared to stop, to put aside your agenda, in order to be there for somebody that Jesus often did that for when He walked among us. He expects us to do the same. The Bible's word is, it's to run with perseverance the race that's set before us. Looking to Jesus to lay out the course. That's my wish and my prayer for all of us, you and for me, for all of us who are in the race. God bless. Let us pray. Oh God, help us to continue with perseverance, to respond to your call, in response to you, and in response to God who is our Creator, our Sustainer, and Spirit that guides us and empowers us to do the things you call us to be and to do. We seek to do them in your name, seek to do them faithfully, and with perseverance. Amen.
Amen.